Chris's back roads of Illinois server to farmers and ranchers in central Illinois and the Midwest. Today's edition of Back Roads of Illinois. We were bringing you lasted for farming sources and information sponsored by Gould. We were glad you're here on a Friday afternoon before the holiday weekend, and happy Memorial Day weekend to you and your family as well. I'm Cesar Delgado. I am your host of today's program. I am joining with Chris Gould from Maple Park, Illinois. Chris is a member of Illinois Corn Growers Association. Plus, we have a conversation with Brian Basting from Advanced Trading on today's fundamentals of the grains and livestock with economist Brian Basting from Advanced Trading for today. We were talking with Chris Gould on Back Roads of Illinois. I'm here with Chris Gould from Maple Park, Illinois. He is a farmer in northern Illinois nearby Chicago and member of Illinois Corn Growers Association. Chris, how are you?
I'm doing very well today, Caesar. Thank you. The sun is out for the first time in about 4 days. It feels good. How are you today?
Yes, it is kinda cool.
Yeah, it's a little cool, but
Okay,
I'll take the sunshine.
Chris, how is your planting season? I heard that you're done with the planting season.
Yes, we finished May 10th. It was relatively smooth. We had a couple of week-long rain delays after starting on April 14th, but we got everything in pretty good conditions. We did have some crusting on some corn and beans, both that were planted April 30th. We did a little rotary hoeing, a little replanting, but the rain that we got this last week has helped everything else, and I think we're in good shape now.
What is the average of the planting progress on normal year?
I would say normally, yeah, we're for sure done by now. It's my goal to be done by the 7th or 10th of May, and so we were maybe a few days late on that, but not significantly. So I guess probably we were about average for planting this year.
Great to hear that you're done. Okay, we were talking about the safe or alcohol-free jet. What happened to it in Washington, because it is pretty confused for this moment.
Yeah, nothing has really changed as of this moment. Well, one thing that has happened in the last 2 days or whatever is that the reconciliation bill, I'm pretty sure, has a 4-year extension of 45Z. So if we can produce grain with the low CI score and therefore produce fuel with it with a low CI score, it can receive significant tax credits. But yeah, SAF is still in its infancy and needs a lot of, I don't know, government policy assistance to make it viable. Um, what is top of mind for SAF for Illinois corn? Well, I'd say Illinois corn is supportive of, again, the policy that would be required to make it competitive with, or close to competitive with standard petroleum jet fuel. And that, again, that requires both state and federal incentives. Illinois did pass, and I think was the first state to pass a tax credit. So we continue to need that. We continue to need, well, federal policy, and but it needs to be durable so that if you're a guy that wants to go build a multi-million dollar plant, you have to be able to know that these policies are going to be in place for a long enough time to make it safe for you to invest in a plant.
How about the RVO? We were hearing it for right now.
Say that one more time, please, Caesar.
How about the RVO? We were hearing it for right now.
Oh, the required volumes for biofuels. Ooh, I know there's been a lot of chatter about that lately, and frankly, I'm not entirely sure I have the most current information. Um, I think that the industry was hoping for slightly larger volumes than the EPA released recently. It's an improvement, but it's not what the industry was hoping for.
What is your final? Thanks, Chris. I. What is your final thoughts on the farm bill for right now?
Well, they're apparently kind of backdooring the farm bill through this budget reconciliation bill that the House just passed and that is going to get pushed over to the Senate now. A lot of increased support for farmers, increased prices and rates, increased crop insurance subsidies. I'm in the camp of I'd like the market to determine the prices that I get. Illinois Corn's policy is that we do not expect a, a government to guarantee profitability. We would expect the market to determine our future. So yeah, I'm not sure where this goes. It's an interesting turn to me. Maybe it's not news to anybody else, but it's interesting how this farm bill is essentially getting pushed through in the great big beautiful bill. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. I mean, once again, the southern states are getting much bigger subsidies than the Midwestern states. Seems a little unreasonable, but I guess if they have to get votes there, that's what they have to do to get votes there.
What is your opinion on the SNAP program as a farmer?
Well, I don't know about as a farmer, as a human being, I think that we need to help out those that need help. I think that problem or that program is probably full of fraud and waste, and that needs to be cleaned up. I'm not opposed to helping people who need temporary help. So I'm not opposed to trying to streamline that program and try to pare it down. But I also think it's a little tricky to make the claim that we have to cut SNAP in order to write bigger checks to me.
Thanks, Chris. I bet the Bears hope that this season is getting better.
Yeah, for sure. We all hope that the Bears season is getting better. Well, hope springs eternal.
With a new coach.
Hopefully he's effective. I don't know a ton about him, and I'm not a Bears fanatic. I just listen to him on the radio while I'm sitting in the combine. But yeah, hopefully he can take the talent that they have and turn things around.
Hmm. Thank you, Chris.
It's been my pleasure.
We've
Thank
been
you, Caesar.
having a conversation with Chris Gould from Maple Park, Illinois, on back roads of Illinois. We were talking about the commodities and beans demand for today with the chief economist, Brian Basting from Advanced Trading. Brian, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you, Caesar. How are you?
I'm good. Brian, let's take a look for a moment to talk about the fundamentals with the trade on the grains. Could you tell us what's your thoughts on the fundamentals?
Well, thanks for having me, Caesar. I think we're going to be looking at some rapid planting pace revealed by the USDA on Tuesday's progress report. That's delayed today, of course, due to Memorial Day on Monday. But I think corn planting nationwide will be approaching 90% on Tuesday's report. We do have some challenges, Caesar, still in parts of the southern areas with too much rain. Southern Illinois has been much too wet, for example. Ohio was behind average in the latest report. So there's some scattered areas that are behind average, but I think nationwide will be approaching 90% on corn, probably around 80% on soybeans. What I would say, Caesar, is that the 2025 crops are off to a slow development start, and that's just because it's been so cool and wet in many areas. Temperatures, of course, as your viewers know, have been well below normal for quite some time now, and they're projected to remain below normal into early next week. So while the crop is planted, in most cases, it's not developing very rapidly, but that can catch up if we get some warmer temperatures as we enter the month of June. On the demand side, Caesar, we're looking at continued strong export demand for corn. Our bias is that the USDA may increase the export forecast in the June 12th report from the supply demand standpoint. Actually, the soybean exports have been surprisingly strong. I don't think that they're near as strong as corn, but they're surprisingly strong from the context of a record Brazilian crop that was harvested this spring. So I think we're seeing a pretty good export demand for both crops. Otherwise, fundamentally, Caesar, the other factor we'll be watching is any trade discussions. On Friday, the administration announced the possibility of a tariff on European Union, which would be important to watch because the European Union imports a substantial amount of soybeans from the U.S. And this year they've actually imported more corn than usual. So we'll be watching that closely as we enter the end of May here and into early June, and of course trade developments on all fronts. But fundamentally, I'd say the crops are off to a fairly good planting start, a slower development start, and good export demand for corn. Actually, very good export demand for corn, and stronger than expected demand for soybeans.
How about the technical side, Brian?
I think we saw a multi-week high, Caesar, in corn futures this week, old crop corn, July corn. We did see that probably due for a setback because of the overbought nature, not severely overbought, but it's probably due for a little bit of a setback. And a 3-day weekend probably contributed that on Friday as traders liquidated long positions. I would say that the soybean market also had a strong month here in the month of May, or has a stronger month going on in the month of May. Prices have reached the highest point here in the month of May, Caesar, for old crop soybeans since February. So a 3-month high. So it wouldn't be surprising to see some profit taking, which is what we saw on Friday. We'll see going forward how the market holds up. The other market to highlight, Caesar, would be the wheat market. Had seen contract lows recently, and I think we're seeing a little bit of bargain buying down there now, a little bit of short covering as the market made contract lows earlier this week.
Yeah, we ready for this weekend after this week, right?
I think that it's going to be an interesting development here at the end of the 3-day weekend, Caesar, from this standpoint. We'll get the updated trade developments, of course, as a 3-day weekend gives plenty of time for changes there. And then we'll also be looking at the weather. Can we get this last 10 to 15% of the corn crop planted in a timely fashion? Can we get the last 20% of the soybeans planted in a timely fashion? So we'll be looking at those weather forecasts after the 3-day weekend to see if it's a little bit of drier and warmer forecast develops. Those would be the key factors, I think, to look at.
What is your thoughts on the trade deficit for right now with China? Of course, it's pretty much confusion about this, Brian.
It's very confusing, Caesar. As a matter of fact, I don't have a strong opinion on the trade deficits. What I will say is that there are going to be potential market movers because, as you said, China is a key trade partner with the U.S. and the number one soybean buyers, U.S. soybeans by far. So will that continue in the 25-26 marketing year? Of course, the U.S. and China paused the tariffs here for 90 days a couple weeks ago. That'll be something to watch. The many other countries there, of course, apparently are in the midst of some trade negotiations, and that's going to have an impact on our exports as we move into the 25-26 crop year for wheat starting June 1st. And of course, the 25-26 crop year for corn and beans will start in September. So I don't have a strong bias on the direction of that's the way that's going to go. But we'll have to see. It certainly is a historical time for changes there.
Do you recommend for the premium risk on these beans markets?
I think a producer, Caesar, particularly on old crop beans, has to continue to manage the market rather than predict price. And by that, I mean we've got a whole growing season in front of us here, but we do have the highest old crop bean prices in about 3 months. I'd recommend a producer, if they were to liquidate any remaining old crop soybeans. I realize there aren't a lot of the old crop soybeans left to be priced, but if there are any left, that a producer could liquidate those beans and purchase a call option to give maximum flexibility to participate in a rally if a rally were to develop here in June, July, August, and moving into harvest. Same for new crop. I think flexibility is the key word I would use for soybeans marketing at this point, Caesar, for new crop beans. With the entire growing season ahead of us here, a lot of uncertainty on trade. Markets, particularly the soybean market, can swing higher or lower very quickly. And so I think a producer wants to maintain flexibility, keep a flow under the market, defend their balance sheet, but also leave upside open for any potential weather disruption and or trade agreement.
What is your thoughts on this grains markets?
I think that as we start the unofficial summer with Memorial Day, that there'll be some surprises ahead of us, Caesar, every year. That's not a profound statement. I realize that, but I think with the uncertainty surrounding trade, with a slow start to the growing season here, with uncertainty about geopolitical developments, whether it be in the Black Sea region with Russia and Ukraine, of course, two key areas to keep an eye on, whether it relates to corn and wheat. A lot of moving pieces. So my thoughts would be it could be a very volatile summer for corn and soybean futures. So and it might even include wheat in the mix, but definitely corn and beans because the growing season is just beginning. And I would just remind your viewers that we would view volatility in the markets as opportunity rather than with fear. And there's many different marketing tools available to manage price volatility during a volatile time period. But I just think that there's so many moving pieces, Caesar, when you look at the domestic market here in the U.S. Biofuels would be another one, uncertainty about the future of biofuels, weather, obviously, and then the trade and geopolitical, that we're just going to have to be acknowledged that this market can see very wide price swings this summer.
How about the livestock markets on fundamentals from today?
I did see, Caesar, that the cattle on feed report came out. I have not seen a lot of reaction to the cattle on feed report yet, but the cattle supply or cattle prices, beg your pardon, of course, are at all-time highs too. We spoke about feeder cattle a moment ago. Live cattle futures are at all-time highs. Cash cattle prices are at all-time highs. Just to share the same thoughts that I shared on feeder cattle at this point, Caesar, that you want to defend your balance sheet if you're a cattle producer because fundamentals eventually will change supply, whether it's more cattle on feed or more imports, whatever the case may be, or demand, we get beef prices too high. I don't know when that point is, but eventually the bull market will end. So I don't know if producers want to consider an aggressive cash selling strategies. I should say they should consider it, continue to move cattle as ready. I would also look at some of those deferred contracts, Caesar, and recognize while they're priced at a discount to cash cattle, that there's still ways to conservatively start to look at some prices, locking in some prices out there. But I say right now, just to continue to look at marketing tools that best fit your operation.
Thanks, Brian. You have a good Memorial Day weekend.
Thanks for having me, Caesar, and I hope you have a great weekend too. And I hope all your listeners our viewers have a safe and enjoyable Memorial Day.
This is Brian Basting, Chief Economist from Advanced Trading on Back Roads of Illinois. Thanks to Chris Gould from Maple Park and economist Brian Basting from Advanced Trading. This has been Back Roads of Illinois. I am Cesar Delgado. You have a good day and good weekend.